Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, I wanted to continue a series that I've been doing on various unique items in Path of Exile, endgame uniques that are generally fairly sought after, and look at what makes them good and how you can go about getting them. In this video, I want to cover Zerphi's Heart. Now, this is not one of the most popular endgame items that are in the game, but it is extremely powerful and extremely underrated. And I want to go through some of what makes it tick and how you can make that ticking work for you. So, Zerphi's Heart does not have very many lines of text. You'll see it's got the increased mana regen rate, which for some reason I have the worst possible... I haven't used any Blessed Orbs on it. I really should fix that. Blessed Orbs being so cheap, I should really just get that up to 30%, which fortunately I got first try. So Zerphi's Heart gives you mana regen rate, but then the reasons you're using it are the explicit mods. So, firstly, it has a very serious drawback. Items and gems have a 50% increased attribute requirement. This is really serious and will have quite an impact on the way you build your character. Now, it's been my approach to dealing with this that the way that I cope with those drawbacks is by picking up a fair number of the good old 30 stat nodes on the tree. Normally, you don't want to take 30 stat nodes if you can avoid it. And you want to take absolutely as few as possible of the 10 stat nodes. But with Zerphi's Heart, you're kind of going to need to have some of these nodes allocated. So that's a genuine cost. If I wasn't using Zerphi's Heart sometimes on this build, I would be able to take... I'd be able to replace this jewel with a Intuitive Leap, and I'd be able to pick up a bunch of really high quality nodes in the nearby area. So there is a very real cost to running Zerphi's Heart on a build. And you're just going to have to decide whether it's worth it or not. So that's the drawback. Now, the first mod that it's got is adds flat chaos damage. 51 to 59, which is a fairly high roll. It goes from 48 to 53 on the low end, 58 to 60 on the high end. It's actually only slightly above average. This is a fair bonus. This is added to both spells and attacks because it doesn't specify otherwise. And when used in conjunction with spells, it will be affected by the spell's damage multiplier. So for instance, taking Penance Brand as an example, you'll see it has effectiveness of added damage 40%. So that means that this will be reduced by 3/5. I'll only get 2/5 of that amount. This is not a reason to use Zerphi's Heart, but it is a meaningful bonus when you've got it. But then you've got the two lines that matter. Chaos damage can ignite, chill, and shock. So chaos damage normally can't do any of these things. You do need to have some source of ignite chance, chill chance, and shock chance. Critical strikes will ignite, chill, and shock always if they're dealing chaos damage. But if you're not critically striking, you will need something like Call of the Brotherhoods. Your spells have 100% chance to shock against frozen enemies in order for this to be of any meaningful benefit to you. Unless you're dealing a lot of lightning damage and you've got nodes on the passive tree like this node here, Elemental Focus. Oh, hang on. It's not Elemental Focus. It's, where's the one that gives you chance to shock? There's a couple of these around the tree that I think I have one of them. Oh, let's just take this. 15% chance to shock on shocking strikes. This means that when you are getting a regular hit with a skill that's dealing chaos damage, it will have a 15% chance to shock and a 10% chance to shock here as well. So that's an example of something that will give you some chance to shock. Additionally, there's a whole lot of other effects around the passive tree that will amp up your chance to shock, to freeze, and to chill, and to ignite. Ultimately, for most builds, that line is a bonus. The ability for chaos damage to ignite, chill, and shock. It's not the reason you play Zerphi's Heart, but it's a meaningful bonus. And when I run a test map with it, in fact, rather than a map, I will run a heist contract with it. You'll be able to see that in practice. The real reason, though, that you're using this item is gain Soul Eater for 20 seconds when you use a Vaal skill. Soul Eater is phenomenal. Soul Eater is a stacking buff. You will have seen this on some of the monsters that have Nemesis mods on them. Some of them will gain Soul Eater buffs, which will cause them to gain a continually stacking... They'll basically become harder and harder to kill the more monsters that die around them. With Soul Eater, when it's active upon you, each monster that dies within a radius of you will grant you 1 stack of Soul Eater. This will expire when the 20 seconds expires, or when you gain another instance of Soul Eater. And those souls will prevent you from recharging your Vaal skills, because that would be the soul that would normally go into your Vaal skill, comes into you instead. Each point of it grants you 1% attack speed, cast speed, and a whole bunch of other bonuses as well. Anyways, that's enough talking about this skill, about this item. This is one that's better to see in practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a monster level 83 heist at this point. And as soon as the Rogue Harbor decides to load, I really noticed that performance degrades a lot on the... performance degrades a lot when I'm recording in heists, more so than anything else. This is just an agility heist. This is a white heist, so I haven't rolled it, and it's one with Talina. And this will give you a sense of the flow of how Zerphi's Heart works on a build. So firstly, we're just going to rush to the end, only picking up the premium chests on the way because I just want to get this video done rather than do a lot of fighting on the way in. I will, however, charge my Vaal skill. Now, my Vaal skill is Vaal Righteous Fire. That's generally the best call if you're a caster, but it will vary. This build, if you're curious, this is an Eternity Shroud Penance Brand Trickster, and interestingly, despite Zerphi's Heart not being available as a Shaper influenced item at all, I'm still really happy with how the item performs on this build. So we'll go and get these chests because they're just too good to walk past. Harbinger ones can be lots of fun stuff. As soon as Talina opens the door for me. And well, we didn't get anything there. Harbinger ones are usually pretty mediocre, but they can be quite good, especially if you get an infused beachhead. So here we go. We're getting to the end now, and this is where the item really shines. When there's a lot of monsters to kill and a real and you sort of have a lot of momentum on your character. So we're going to trigger our Soul Eater at this point, as soon as we get to the first example of resistance. And now you'll see that there's a buff that's stacking up here. The more points that stacks up to, the more movement speed buff I will get, the faster I'll start moving around. And unfortunately, this is a really bad spot to showcase it because of the waiting for Talina to do her thing. Once I get to recharge Vaal Righteous Fire, you'll be able to see it properly again. More monsters will spawn. The longer that we're in here, the more monsters will spawn. That's why our heists are really good for demonstrating this. Come on, Tully. If you listen to the RP stuff in the Heist League, you'll see that Talina loathes anyone shortening her name in any way, shape, or form. Alright, here we go. We're starting to see a lot of monsters. Now with that... Ooh, let's get out of that little nasty thing. At this point, we are going to proc our Vaal Righteous Fire, and that's going to give us Soul Eater. And now we're going to start moving like crazy for the next 20 seconds. Now that we're starting to get more and more charges, the speed of my casting is going to be insane. We're just going to zip around, and this is only with a dozen stacks at the moment. It keeps stacking higher and higher. You become harder and harder to kill. You kill things faster, though your mana becomes impossible to maintain. Now at this point, it's finished. It's run out again. Unfortunately, these it's a repository contract. These are usually the ones that have the highest monster density, but we just had a bad positioning of some of those Talina obstacles that prevented us from really building massive momentum. But still, I think this should give you a sense as to just how much faster you move. You also notice that you get larger. Just before, if you rewind a couple of seconds, you'll see that when I had 50 odd stacks of Soul Eater, my character was enormously large.
But it could have gone a lot worse.
Now, this was all done on a character that would really like to have a Shaper influenced item here, because of the synergies with the Eternity Shroud. On a different build, one that's dealing a lot of chaos damage from other sources, one that just can kill things fast, you'll find that Soul Eater is even better again. Zerphi's Heart gets my pick as one of the most underrated unique items in the game. It's really strong, really powerful, and also just a lot of fun to use. So let's talk about how you can source this item, because this series is about how to source items as well. And unfortunately here, there are only two ways of getting this item. One of them is from an Incursion Temple upgrade. This is extremely rare because it requires the rarest of the various Vial upgrades that drop in Incursions. Generally speaking, you're only going to get the appropriate Vial once every couple of thousand Incursion Temples. Needless to say, this is not something that's viable at all for you to farm for yourself. However, there is a divination card called the Life Thief that drops in, I believe it's the Crimson Temple map, and it is genuinely very rare. You're not likely to self-compile a set of 6 of this card, but you can turn in 6 of them for the Zerphi's Heart Amulet. And in a trade league, you'll find there are enough copies of the Life Thief circulating in trade that you will be able to compile a set with a little bit of determination. You'll be able to buy 6 cards off different people. Maybe you'll get one of them yourself. Probably not. It is a very rare card. I think it's about as rare as the Doctor. So don't expect to self-compile this without extraordinary dedication. But it is definitely an item that you can pick up the pieces of set for yourself and then trade them in with Navani and get yourself the item that way. So those are the ways to get it. Unfortunately, solo self-found players are going to be left out in the lurch on this one again. It's not really... It is possible to compile a set of the Life Thief in SSF. There are people that have done it, but they are people who play the game a staggering amount. If that's not you, if you don't feel that you could self-compile a set of the Doctor, then don't attempt to self-compile a set of the Life Thief. But that's the only way you're ever going to find it in SSF. Anyways, gonna leave it there. If you've got any comments or questions, fire away below. I'm intending to look at a few other uniques later on. Definitely got the Eternity Shroud, got Farrell's Fur as a couple of things that are coming up. But fire away with your suggestions as well.